Hey, it's your guy Tyrrell back with the interviews. In today's video, we're going to briefly analyze the main tactical theme that resulted in Bayern's dominant opening 45 minutes against PSG prior to Luis Diaz's dismissal and their 2-1 victory over the reigning European champions. But before we get into today's video, don't forget to check out our recent Bayern Munich uploads where we analyze Bayern's impressive win over Leverkusen, we focus on Kompany's tactical adjustment against Gladbach, we see how Bayern destroyed Club Brugge, and we do focus in on Leonard Carl and Harry Kane's quarterback role for Bayern this season. So when we break it all down and we do look at the board, we have Bayern in a 4-2-3-1, and the only real surprises that we witnessed here was that Pavlovic did start with Kimmich in that midfield zone, just in behind Gnabry, and Stanisic operated as the left back in the back four. That ended up seeing them go up against PSG's 4-3-3, and the main tactical theme here was how Bayern approached this game out of possession and how they did a very good job of ensuring that they stifle PSG's midfield trio. When you look at Bayern out of possession, they were more of a 4-4-2 with Kane and Gnabry leading the line. But when you hone in on that midfield zone, you do see that it is 3v3. And traditionally on paper, what you would see is Gnabry tracking the movement of Vitinha, and then Fabian Ruiz and Zaire Emery being tracked by Pavlovic and Kimmich. And there were scenarios where we did witness that, but often what we saw was that with Vitinha dropping deeper and towards his own third and sometimes in towards the backline to get onto the ball, you'd witness Kimmich pushing forward to apply pressure on Vitinha, and then from there Gnabry would track the movement of Fabian Ruiz. And the most consistent battle across the pitch was Zaire Emery being tracked by Pavlovic. And there are several examples where you witness Pavlovic tracking Zaire Emery in towards his own half, and the PSG shuttler looking to run off the Bayern Munich midfielder in towards advanced positions, but Pavlovic doing a very good job of tracking that movement and sticking with the PSG midfielder to ensure that he couldn't break free in Bayern third. A lot of those scenarios stemmed with a PSG defender on the ball, and then a PSG attacker looking to drag out Jonathan Tah, and that would create space for Zaire Emery to break into and drag out Pavlovic. But like I said, in both of those scenarios, Pavlovic did a very good job of tracking that movement, ensuring that Zaire Emery couldn't get on the ball freely. So we witnessed a bit of both from Bayern. They could press higher up the pitch with Kimmich stepping towards Vitinha, and then Gnabry and Pavlovic dealing with the two other shuttlers. And that would often see Kane occupying a center back with Diaz and Olise looking to close down the fullbacks. Or you could witness them dropping deeper and maintaining a narrow 4-4-2 that would often end up seeing them be more of a back five because of Hakimi's positioning as he'd look to push forward, and that's where you'd see Barcola looking to shift centrally and drag out Stanisic in towards a central area. Or the other alternative was to witness some variation where you would see Gnabry stepping towards Zaire Emery and Pavlovic dealing with Fabian Ruiz, or simply Fabian Ruiz dragging Gnabry as the deepest midfielder, Pavlovic stepping towards Zaire Emery, and then Kimmich tracking the movement of Vitinha breaking towards his own half. However, there weren't always times where Bayern were 3v3 in that midfield zone, as like stated prior, Bayern were in more of a 4-4-2 out of possession, so there were scenarios where Gnabry helped Kane press higher up the pitch to close down the center backs or close down the goalkeeper by pressing him or blocking off passing lanes and towards the center backs, and that would leave one of the PSG midfielders free, often Fabian Ruiz, but that's where Upamecano played a key role here, as he was often stepping forward and being aggressive with his positioning, and following the free midfielder, which was often Fabian Ruiz, in towards the middle third or his own half to apply pressure to ensure that he couldn't progress the play up the pitch. There are several examples where you witness Upamecano stepping forward in towards the middle third or his own third to apply pressure towards Fabian Ruiz, and it was evident that this was a clear tactic for Vincent Kompany to ensure that PSG couldn't dominate the midfield zone, and even when they had Gnabry stepping forward to apply pressure with Kane, they would have Upamecano free to step forward in towards that zone to apply pressure. Even when PSG attempted to flip their midfield shape by having Fabian Ruiz as the deepest midfielder, you could see examples where it's Pavlovic sticking to Zaire Emery, Kimmich stepping towards Fabian Ruiz, and then Upamecano stepping in towards the PSG half and applying pressure towards Vitinha, who was the most advanced midfielder. But for the most part, this was the common theme within that opening half, and it really disrupted PSG from settling settling into the game and gaining control in that midfield zone, and it played a key factor in Bayern Munich disrupting PSG's possession. However, PSG's sloppy play in their own third also led to their downfall, and you witnessed several occasions where they simply played loose passes in their own third, and it allowed Bayern to quickly break towards the final third and get themselves into legitimate goal scoring positions. And look no further than Bayern's second goal, where it's simply Marquinhos taking too much time on the ball and inviting Luis Diaz pressure, and Diaz was able to step in towards the center back, win possession, and look how close he is towards the penalty area, where he can simply carry the ball in towards that zone and then fire an effort beyond the keeper. And the same could be said for Hakimi, who was culpable for 2 quality chances that Bayern Munich created by simply being sloppy in his own third. The first one was Stanisic swarming him at the edge of his own penalty area, and he ended up losing possession. And from there, Stanisic was able to carry the ball in towards the penalty area, slide the ball across the center back and Hakimi for Kimmich breaking in towards the 6-yard area. And from here, Kimmich pulled the ball back across Hakimi for Stanisic, but it simply bypassed him, falling towards the path of Gnabry, but it was Zaire Emery making a last-ditch tackle to ensure Bayern didn't kill off the game. And then minutes later, PSG were fortunate to get off the hook as a Upamecano diagonal ball for the run of Stanisic across Hakimi saw Hakimi nod the ball into the path of Harry Kane, and Kane was able to play a first-time ball around Zaire Emery and Hakimi for an unmarked Stanisic, and Stanisic was able to carry the ball in towards the penalty area, and despite some last-ditch PSG pressure, fired his effort beyond the goalkeeper. But when Kane played the ball in towards Stanisic in that zone, he was ruled offside. And the other issue that PSG encountered was self-inflicted, and it was simply their passes out of their own half or in the middle third in towards the midfield, and Bayern Munich were able to cut off those loose passes. And the issue that PSG encountered was that when Bayern won the ball, they were able to break freely with numbers in towards the PSG penalty area. But luckily for the European champions, in these scenarios where the Bayern attack were able to break freely in towards the PSG third, while they did a very good job of combining to get in towards the final third, it was the decision making or the final ball that let Bayern down, and they simply were unable to get shots off on goal. But it was a warning side for a PSG side that looked helpless in transition when they lost the ball. If we look to an example of PSG's poor passing in towards the midfield zone, it's Hakimi playing the ball around Diaz for the wide player, but that's where you see Stanisic easily stepping in to win possession. And from here, Bayern are now able to break, and he slides the ball into the path of Harry Kane. Kane squares it into the path of Diaz, who can now run at the 2 center backs. And when Diaz receives the ball, he ends up squaring it into the path of Gnabry, who now pulls out the center back. And from this position, he ends up firing a good effort on goal that ends up hitting the far post. However, when you analyze Bayern's 3 best chances in that opening half outside of the second goal, they highlight all of the issues that PSG encountered here. The poor passing out of the back, the inability to bypass the Bayern press and their overall defensive shape out of possession, and we witnessed a slight tactical wrinkle to help Fabian Ruiz get on the ball, and it was him dropping in towards the inside left position so that they could attempt to have Olise look to press him, advanced central position, and that would see Upamecano stepping towards him. And when we look to 2 of those 3 best chances, it was Upamecano dispossessing the left back and then helping Bayern break in transition. The big issue here outside of losing possession and being attacked in transition is that you have Nuno Mendes taken out of the game as he's caught higher up the pitch, and now you have Gnabry or Olise, or sometimes both, running in space with Fabian Ruiz looking to recover or a center back looking to recover, and that was where Bayern were able to punish this PSG side, and frankly they were fortunate that it wasn't by more. When you analyze the build up to Bayern's opener, that's where you see Fabian Ruiz shifting in towards that zone. You have the center back playing the ball around Gnabry, you have Tab being pulled up by Dembele, and then that's where you see Kimmich and Pavlovic doing a good job of tracking Zaire Emery and Vitinha. The ball is played in towards Nuno Mendes, but he doesn't do a good job of controlling it, and it allows Upamecano to step and win possession, and the ball ricochets into the path of Kimmich, who now bypasses the PSG midfield with one pass in towards Gnabry, and and from there he pulls out the center back, and Gnabry instantly flicks the ball into the path of Olise running off Fabian Ruiz. That results in Olise breaking free and towards the PSG penalty area. Fabian Ruiz can't recover, and from here he fires a tame effort at the keeper, but it ends up falling into the path of Luis Diaz, who does a very good job of putting the rebound beyond the keeper. And if we look to an example that should have killed off the game for Bayern, you see Kane and Gnabry stepping towards the two center backs, Pavlovic pushing towards Zaire Emery, and you have Kimmich stepping towards Vitinha, who's blocking off the passing lane and towards an unmarked Fabian Ruiz, and Kimmich does a very good job of blocking the switch out, and that ends up falling into the path of an advanced Nuno Mendes, but once again it's Upamecano stepping in to win possession and then carrying the ball towards the left channel, where he ends up retaining the possession and then squaring the ball in towards Kimmich, who drags out Vitinha, and watch how this play develops. Kimmich ends up squaring the ball into the path of Gnabry, who's unmarked, and while Gnabry drags Vitinha and Fabian Ruiz towards him, he ends up dropping the ball back in towards the path of Kimmich, and from there Kimmich ends up sliding the ball around Vitinha for Gnabry, who's now able to break free towards the penalty area, with Kane and Olise looking to serve as options. That sees Gnabry slide the ball across the center back for an unmarked Olise as Nuno Mendes is taken out of the game, and from here Olise is able to go 1v1 with the center back, and he ends up dragging the center back and Vitinha towards him and drops the ball back out towards Gnabry, and with Gnabry receiving it, he pulls away Vitinha, and that's where you see Kimmich running off Fabian Ruiz to break in towards the penalty area. Gnabry assesses that run and he ends up backheeling the ball around Vitinha for Kimmich, and when Kimmich receives that ball, he drags it around Marquinhos to break in towards the 6-yard area, but he ends up flashing his effort inches wide of the far post. So as you can see in what proved to be Bayern's sternest test of the season thus far on paper, the German champions' pressing and defensive approach out of possession proved crucial in stifling Luis Enrique's men, whilst equally serving as the catalyst towards their best chances that should have settled the tie before Diaz's dismissal.